listening to Inclusive AF with Jackie Clayton and Katie Van Horn.
All righty. Jackie is back. Whoop, 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 whoop.
I know.
Welcome back, my friend.
Thank you so much. I've been doing absolutely nothing. If you can tell, look at my face. I look relaxed.
Yes.
That's exactly what I've been doing.
Can you tell on my face that I've been doing too many things?
I was going to say, but I didn't want to say.
Yeah. We'll just leave that there. This is the Inclusive AF podcast. This is Katie Van Horn.
And this is Jackie Clayton. And today we have multiple guests. I know people are going to be very, very confused, but I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, we have a whole room full, a virtual room full of peeps, which is awesome. And so I think we just need to get this party started. So Danielle, I'm going to turn it over to you to have you introduce yourself, and then we'll do a little around the room, and Natalia and Crystal jump in.
Thank you so much. And thank you for having us here today. So I'll kick it off. My name is Danielle Guadeloupe-Rojas, and I am a director at an organization called Opportunity at Work. We'll get into a little bit more about what we do, what we stand for, and introduce you to the term STARS. I come with a large background in DEI and as well as workforce development, 15 plus years in the game, but who's counting, and really truly enjoy the work that we do at Opportunity at Work. And I am a star. I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to some of my colleagues that I brought here with me today to tell you a little bit about themselves, what they do at the organization, and a little bit of the work that we're doing.
Yes. So Katie, Jackie, it's so nice to meet you. It's so fun to be part of a podcast that talks about inclusivity. As Danielle mentioned, we work for the organization Opportunity at Work, and I am also a STAR. That's an individual who is skilled through alternative routes. We'll talk a lot about our STAR experience and journey, but I'll share a little bit about my background. I grew up in the Northeast. I'm a first generation immigrant that grew up in a household with a single parent. I attended public school, and although I had really great grades, I was not able to make it to college. After a brief stint in the Army National Guard, I went into the workforce, and for about 12 years, I worked my way up and was a professional in talent acquisition and had a few other stints as HR generalist, so I'm very familiar with your world. And today I work as the director of product design for STARS Inclusivity. So we work with partners as well as our internal teams, one of whom which is here today. And we design tools and products that will help talent acquisition specialists, employers, job seekers who are STARS, to navigate and increase their upward mobility.
Great. Hello, everybody. Great to meet you guys. I'm Crystal Zilliox. As Danielle and Natalia, I am also a STAR. My career started over 30 years ago, serving as a member in the United States Marine Corps as a technical liaison. So as IT, my career has had so many twists and turns, one of which, included maybe 2 years of college, but for lots of reasons, decided not to finish that. But I've been in IT. I've been in, I've built help desks, customer service, customer success. I've been in high-end technical sales, marketing. I've done many years, I guess the last decade, I've really been focused on the sourcing and recruiting market. The last 6 a wish formally as a product manager. And so currently, I am a senior member of the product team at Opportunity at Work, and I really focus on building tools for STAR inclusivity, right? So building tools for employers to understand our mission and building tools for STARS to understand where they fit within our mission. And really, honestly, just trying to give back. I'm a STAR that has a really weird career transition that looks really bad on paper. But if you get to know me, you'll understand my powerhouse as a product manager. And if I could do anything, I would just love to put what I've been able to do with my career in the hands of other STARS, and that knowledge of how valuable somebody like me could be in an organization who traditionally only looks for people with college degrees. So I'm just excited to be here, share my experiences, and really kind of uncover, what we might be able to collaborate here together about.
I love this. By the way, I'm a STAR, and in case you aren't familiar, it stands for Skilled Through Alternative Routes. So it's people who don't have their degree, which I love that. It's like, oh, and we were talking about rising stars and super, I don't know what it was. It was like super, whatever, Nova stars. It's like whatever. There's all of these different layers, but I love the public service campaign of the tear the paper ceiling. I see it all the time, and I'm going to get in a car accident. When I drive between here and Dallas, when I see it, I get so excited. I'm like, what is the sign? And I get very excited because I think it's so many people know, like when they see it, they want to know more about it and they understand what it is. And I just think it's so important, an important campaign for people to know, and that you've put a name on it, because I don't know if people knew like why this should be something that they need to pay attention to.
Jackie, if I can jump in, I really resonate with what you're saying. Growing up and moving throughout my career as a STAR, I didn't know that, there were all of these things that I had actually built that were valuable. So like one thing that we often talk about when we talk with STARs who are like us, who are like moving throughout their career without a degree, is that there's tons of imposter syndrome. And we also don't have a way to like fully qualify or validate or even articulate like what our skills are, how we develop them. And so when the campaign was launched, I mean, I literally cried. Every time I see it, I cry, because it means so much to focus on what we do have and on the value of this diverse, all of the diverse pathways that we all walked to get to where we are and to contribute, positively. It's so refreshing to finally have a name that we can use with pride.
Not only that, but I think the word STAR itself has such a positive connotation to it. So for me, prior to joining Opportunity at Work, I didn't know what a STAR was, right? I was embarrassed to show that I didn't have my degree. I was scared. The imposter syndrome was real. I did not want to tell anyone that I did not go to a school. I am based out of the DC metropolitan area, and the very first conversation that people like to do is ask you, what do you do for a living? Which is fine. And what school did you graduate from? And I always tell people I graduated from the School of Life. Or if my mother was on the phone, because she's a business owner, and that's kind of where I got my STAR start from, I'd say I graduated from the School of Denise Rojas, because that's a very important school. I graduated from the School of Business with my mama. So I say all that to say that it really did help with my business acumen. And you'll notice throughout this conversation and just the trajectory of STARs that we all don't just do one thing. We all kind of do a multitude of things, and we've developed so many skills and so many pathways. Me personally, I have been in so many different industries. I think it's easier to ask me what industry I haven't been in and what industry I haven't had experience in versus what have I done.
That is awesome. And so how did this get started?
Opportunity at Work, or just the notion of STARs?
The notion of STARs and Opportunity at Work. Yeah. Can I consider myself a STAR? I do have my degree, but it took me 10 plus years to get it. Does that count?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you can consider yourself a STAR. Yes, you had a STAR trajectory for sure. I'd love to tag team on this with Natalia to talk about a little bit of the work that we do. But one of our founders and CEO, Byron, worked exclusively with the Obama administration several years ago, and really lent aid and helping out with research, understanding what is really affecting the workforce development, talent acquisition, and where's the talent, right? I don't know about you all, but I've had experience in staffing, and I would say for the most point, our recruiters would always say, where are the STARs? Where are the people that we can find and be able to help with their talent? But it was a little bit of an issue because we've all been wired, right? To go to school, get your 4-year degree. That is what success looks like. That's what good looks like. And thank goodness to Byron, he was able to do a little bit more research and coming up with the data to lend to the administration to say, okay, no, there's a serious problem here when it comes to our hiring practices. And we really do need to open an alternative solution to people who don't have degrees. And I want to say this for the record. we're not blaming or shaming anyone that has a degree. We celebrate you. So we're not saying don't go to school and get your 4-year degree. If that is your pathway, if that's your trajectory, we celebrate you. But we're also saying, please consider that there's also alternative paths and pathways to people like myself, Crystal, and Natalia, and Jackie, who have the skills, and you shouldn't really knock them down for being qualified for a position because they probably got the skills, whether it's on the job training, apprenticeships, or just simple using your skills that you've developed from other jobs to be able to do the job that is saying it requires a degree. So I'm going to turn it over to Natalia so she can talk a little bit more about kind of where STARS came from. But that's kind of how we started the concept of opportunity at work.
Thanks, Danielle. I don't know that I'm the one who can tell the origin story the best, but I have been with the organization for 6 years, so I do know a little bit of the history. And before I talk about that, Katie, I do want to share, it's in the name, right? Like skill through alternative routes. So I would say you are definitely a STAR. For many, many years, you were navigating your education and your responsibilities to school as well as, the rest of your life. And that is the experience that many STARS have today. And so what we're trying to address with this Tear the Paper Ceiling campaign and the mission to, raise awareness about STARS as a talent category is that the way that we've been hiring traditionally within our labor market has been by, proxy of using the college degree as the qualifier. There's just inherent bias that goes along with like who has access to college education and what it takes to get through college education. But the reality is that we all struggle through many different challenges, whether it's education or it's, working and taking classes or taking care of our families, whatever the case is. We still have the grit that you develop in school. We still have the dedication and the commitment because we have to. It's a survival mechanism. Like there's so many ways that we have a lot of things in common with college graduates. So really, it's not about the fact that you have a degree or not have the degree. It's about what you view as valuable when you're making hiring decisions. Mm-hmm. And because of the degree requirement that many employers have in place, it's limiting the possibilities of bringing on amazing talent that you're missing out on simply because your tools are wired to exclude them, or because of that internal bias that we have to like face and be honest about and say like, what can we do that's different? Like, hello, we have 70 million people who are ready to work. Put them to work. That's really what the mission is. So the origin of the STAR acronym was really the beautiful mind child of our former senior director of communications and the work that we did with Ogilvy and the Ad Council to deliver the ad campaign. So all credits go to those groups, which have recently been awarded amazing things for doing the work that they do. So yeah, I would say that anyone can be a STAR and everyone probably is a STAR at some point, but it's really more about like, what can you do with and for STARs?
Hey, everybody. Got a quick question for you. Is your job easy, stress-free, and full of rainbows and sunshine every single day? Yeah, I'd say that's a big fat no. Hi, I'm David Noe, host of Speakeasy HR, presented by Payroll Partners, and proud to be part of the Work-Defined community. Take a step down into my Speakeasy live on LinkedIn and YouTube, where we tackle HR and business challenges through raw, uncut, unfiltered conversations. This is HR like you've never heard it before. Bold, real, and full of practical takeaways. Real guests, bold insights, authentic conversations that drive change. Catch every episode on demand through your favorite podcast platform or all the content at speakeasyhr.com.
Right. Awesome. And so the whole concept, I think the only thing that I can think of that's kind of what I have experienced working in recruiting and in tech is some of the boot camps that were launched years ago to, for folks who did not have a degree to say, like, here's how you write code, here's how you start to learn. So are there learning programs that folks go through to learn the skill sets, or is it stuff that they have learned through on the job training? How do folks get educated or get the skills they need for the roles?
I mean, I'd like to take a stab at that. I think my path is fairly untraditional. I started my career in the Marine Corps, doing a very highly technical role. And, there was my next job after that, I very quickly moved into IT management and then decided to go to school for a couple of years. Mm-hmm. But when I moved to a different city, they no longer had my college there. So I decided not to go. And I haven't actually been through formal certifications classes. I have not. Enroll. I actually learn very well by reading articles, by listening, by, podcasts. Like I soak up information differently than maybe your average person who prefers sitting in a classroom. Mm-hmm. So I would say that, 90% of what I know today is literally just being in the workforce, learning from my coworkers, and then taking those skills. And I guess I've been really fortunate in that my brain is wired to say, okay, you know what? I have all these skills. Where else could that take me? So, from going, and I don't think that my path is very traditional. I literally went from an IT manager to a high-end production sales person who sold high-end production equipment into data centers, right? Because I had the IT background, but I had this, as a manager, I learned communication. I learned how to work with people. I learned how to negotiate. And so those are all skills that as an IT manager, you would not necessarily think would transfer well into a high-end production sales role. But I made that transition very easily. And then when I worked at a couple of large companies, I did have internal training opportunities where I'd pick up more skills. And so, and then about the time I decided, you know what, I really am selling my soul in sales. I'm over this. Where do I go next? And so then it was like, okay, I have lots of management. I have lots of IT. I have lots of people skills. I have sales and marketing background. And I thought, well, man, maybe being like a technical recruiter would be fun. And I literally did that. But what I did is at a start, because I don't have a degree, I literally had to make these career transitions and often had to start over from scratch. I was in a position and I was willing to do that because I knew over career, like how important skill growth would be, right? And so here I am. I'm a senior member building products in the technical space for a sourcing IT kind of market. And if you think about my career path and you saw it on paper, all those skills that I built along the way make me absolutely perfect for product. I didn't even know that I would be good for product. It took a CEO of a matching algorithm company to look at my resume and say, wow, I think I applied for a manager of like a customer success role position. But she said, wow, because I had previously worked at Indeed and I built the candidate experience from ground up. And she's like, you know what, Crystal, I really think that you would be a great product manager. I'm like, well, I'm not sure what that is, but let's give it a go. And I actually very quickly moved my way up into head of product. And then next thing you know, over the course of 3 years, I was building products from the ground up. And I didn't even necessarily know that I could do that until somebody saw it in me. And they didn't adhere to the traditional, I'm not going to hire you because you don't have the title and you don't have a degree. She took a chance on me and I'm in a great place because of it. So I really think that, skills can be learned anywhere and it doesn't have to be in a formal training program. It doesn't have to be in a formal school. I think, your real, solid people in the workforce are the people that are just lifelong learners. They're just the ones that are excited about learning new things. I have a tendency to get bored if things are status quo for too long. So that might contribute to my moving around a bit, but I'll never regret the trajectory that I took or the choices I made. And I just have to be grateful about the opportunities that I was provided along the way, because I've had some great managers that didn't necessarily adhere to the traditional, you don't have the title, you don't have the degree. So again, for me now, it's about building products and making and creating a fair playing field for those with or without degrees.
That's awesome. Appreciate that. I think it was, we were at HR Tech last year when we were talking about Delta and they were doing skills-based hiring. And so they don't require a degree anymore for their pilots. And what was interesting, it was how many people went from high school to going into the military, right? They didn't get a high school degree. They've been a pilot for so many years, but yet they couldn't work at Delta, even though they had the hours and they had the experience because they required a degree up until last year or the year before. Right. And so it seems like such a dumb moment. Like, why don't you hire people for the skills that they have? It's like, oh, wait, like I still have value, but it also speaks to the issues that we're seeing with with why DIB is so important, because these barriers it was not a mistake in knowing that there's a certain level of privilege in getting these opportunities, whether it be race or money or mental health or, being differently abled. This was set on purpose. And so that's why I love the tear the paper ceiling. But then you look at right now, nobody went to school for, this particular algorithm. Like, you would have had to catch up in the last 3 years. So anybody beyond that didn't know what AI was when they were going, or that wasn't something that they referenced. And so I like to always say that the greatest gift that I have was that nobody told me how to do this. I had to figure it out, and I still figure it out. So I do what makes sense and not what was written in a book. From having those experiences. But I think, to your point earlier, a lot of people do get shamed and embarrassed. And so it's a little early, and I know you're going to share more like this, but when somebody is who's listening right now and they're like, I don't have a degree, and they're getting very excited right now, like, where do they go? Like, what kind of things can you point them to when I go to your, for them to share the opportunities and network? Do you have opportunities like that for people who are stars?
Absolutely. We work with a lot of big companies, and I don't know if I'm allowed to list them, but a lot of companies that a lot of people know on a day-to-day, including Walmart. We can list Walmart. And what I think is really great is that one of the pieces of advice that I would give to how to attract being a star employers' attention, because it's not just opportunity at work. It's not just us who is focusing on this. There's other organizations that have signed on to being part of the Tear the Paper Ceiling Coalition. It has gotten so big that now organizations want to say, we are signing up to pledge that we will, as a company, start to learn and navigate how to hire stars in this space. So my advice to a star that is watching this is a few things. One, sometimes you really just have to apply to the job that says degree required, just to be honest. Like, sometimes you have to throw the baby out with the bathwater and say, let's just hope that they don't catch that I don't have a degree, or let's just hope that they see that I have the skill set to do this job without the degree. The other thing, too, I would suggest is make sure you list these skill sets, right? You always want to tailor your resume to the job that you're applying to when you have the time, but put these skills that you have on your resume, because it really might be able to replace the degree and show that you have the amount of experience based on the skill set that you listed on your resume. Prime example, I'm in business development and corporate development. People would never think that I have an IT background and I know that I can do things in Salesforce and AWS and have all these certifications. They'll just think that I'm just into relationship management. But lo and behold, if you have a little bit of a problem, I'd be able to help you with when it comes to cybersecurity and IT and network security and things like that. But you would never think that. I didn't go to college to get that. I went to a job. I learned the trade a little bit into IT and cybersecurity, and I collected the skill like I collect bags. That's kind of how I look at it, right? I love to go to every single job that I've had in the past and write down the skills that I've been able to collect, because it really surprises employers when I tell them I can do that as well. They'll say, Danielle, that's not on your resume. And I'm like, I have too many skills. I can't list them all on my resume. So those are some of the two important things that I would suggest. And also go into your internal HR departments, people and culture departments, and see if there's anything that you can do to upskill in your current job so you can add it to your LinkedIn, to your resume, because those kind of things will definitely help.
Awesome.
To add to that, because I work in as the director of product design. I formerly sat on our own innovation team, and we did a lot of design research for prototypes that we were designing. And one thing that I recall from the design research that we've done with stars is that, like, not everyone is at that kind of moment where they can say proudly, I'm a star. Like, it is a personal experience that you have to go through to get to a place where you believe that you have valuable things to contribute, because the conditioning we've gotten from, like, our society is that, like, we have something that's missing. And I like to tell this story because I love this dear friend. His name is Yvonne. We were colleagues when I worked for a recruitment department. And I remember I had worked for a another social enterprise nonprofit based in Boston, sitting in the people and culture team as a recruitment manager, hiring for the C-suite. And I kept thinking, you know, when we would go into our team meetings, I'm sitting next to graduates from Harvard, from Princeton, from Brown, and I'm like, I do not belong here. Like, what am I doing here? I feel like I'm a fish out of water. And he was the person who reminded me that I'm sitting there in a room full of like, not only college graduates, but graduates from elite schools that, you know, have this perception of just being the top tier, you know, like greatest minds that they create. And so he had to remind me that, like, for some reason, I'm still sitting there. And it was because of the work that I was producing. And it was because of the work experience that I had. So whenever I think about like where stars are today and how do we get to a place where, you know, there's more opportunities provided, the onus is certainly on the employers, but I also believe that the onus is on our individual responsibility to build up that confidence, to learn how to tell our story. Like when Crystal tells me her story, I get chills because I'm inspired and moved by the grit and the, you know, like the epiphanies that we all experience when we're like realizing, wow, like we actually have something to prove and something, you know, to contribute. So I would say mentorships, if you can find them, definitely visit our Tear the Paper Ceiling website where you can connect with other stars. We really want for more people to hear this term, to hear these stories and to tell their stories. And within that community of stars that's beginning to emerge, to really find that light and positivity and confidence and boost that we all want, as both stars and non-stars, right? Like, but to know that we now have this platform and this movement, it really means a lot. And I think that's, you know, part of the work that we all will do is to become a part of it.
The other thing I wanted to add too is that there's over 70 million stars around the nation. 70 million stars around the United States. There's actually more stars than jobs. Like that is a fact. That is a data point that we do here at Opportunity Work where we express the value of stars. So I'm basically saying be proud to be a star, right? Show it off, talk about it, let people know. I tell people all the time I'm a star and they're shocked. I said, just because I'm a star doesn't mean I'm not educated. I have a lot of skills. I know a lot about things. I could probably teach you a thing or two, right? So I tell people, be confident. Let's reverse the narrative around, you know, you not having a degree being a bad thing, but let's talk about the things that are really great being a star. I've had the ability to jump into different industries. Crystal, you have a beautiful story. Natalia, you have a beautiful story as well. I think when we share these stories, it really kind of changes people's biases a little bit in their head and understand that, you know what, being a star is a good thing and it can add value to our company.
And I would like to double click, Jackie. You know,
I'm glad that you said that. I don't know. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to actually double click. Danielle, you mentioned like a resume, right? Or building a resume. I firmly believe in a skills-based resume, right? Let's stop breaking our experience down by the job titles and the experience we have. Let's have that whole half of that first page just double down on the skills that I've earned that are specifically transferable to the job that I'm wanting. And Natalia, you mentioned building your narrative. That's what it's about, right? It's about gaining that confidence and understanding transferable skills. So if you're a star and you don't really know where to go, start looking for career pathing tools that really allow you to kind of look at your transferable skills where you can, see the skills that you have and how those might transfer into different career paths. And then you can start looking at what your interest is. And once you understand skill gaps, then you can always look for mentorships in areas where maybe you're missing some skills, look for certification or some minor training classes. Like there are so many opportunities. I think most of it is knowing yourself, where you've been, where you want to go, and building your narrative around those skills that you've gained and how those transferable skills would align into the career path that you want. And so I just think that double downing on all of those is really the path that stars should take to find some success in their career pathing.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
So how do you connect with, I'm actually chuckling as I'm listening to you because I firmly agree in every single thing that you're all mentioning. And I love the idea, kind of the thread from each of you is taking those opportunities, taking on stuff, even if you don't have the degree in it or don't have I have this specific skill. And, we know from the research, obviously, that women and people of color are less likely to apply. And like you said, Danielle, even if you don't have a degree, apply for the job anyhow. I just had a conversation literally this morning with one of my leaders in Barcelona and said, do we really need a degree for this job? If they've been doing this for 7 or 8 years, do they need a degree? And she's like, well, yeah, I guess not. And I'm like, okay, let's just have an actual conversation about, I'd rather have someone that knows how to do it versus they have to have a pretty degree, as you all have mentioned. And so I think it's something that, the lifelong learning and just the being able to take on new things, that is something that I think is, if folks are listening, hear nothing else, listening to that and hearing just that each one of you really took on things that maybe you weren't 100% comfortable with or didn't know, through and through, but it was, let's just try it and see how it goes, which I think is something that a lot of times people are afraid to do. You don't want to fail. And so it's I'm just not even going to try because I don't want to fail. So if someone wants to, if an organization wants to work with you all, how do they get involved with working with you all? How do they actually partner with you?
Finding a great career has always been a challenge. But today, with the massive changes underway in just about every sector of the economy, in just about every country in the world, finding a great new career is even more challenging. And if you're a student, recent graduate, or someone else early in their career, it's even harder for you because you just don't have the experience that those who might be 10, 20, 30 years older than you have. The answer? The podcast, From Dorms to Desks, a podcast by College Recruiter job search site, where every week we take a deep dive into a topic specifically of interest to candidates who are early in their careers and looking for a great part-time, seasonal, internship, or other entry-level job.
So in a nutshell, you call me. I'm the Director of Strategic Corporate Partnerships here at Opportunity Network. And my job is really to be that connector, right? To connect with organizations like the Walmarts and the LinkedIns to really be able to understand what's currently going on with your organization and see how we could be a good fit. This is not a one size fits all, by no means, for anybody. Just like a star is not a one size fits all. Crystal has a beautiful story, Natalia has a beautiful story, but they're two different stories. My story is completely different from Crystal's. I was stuck in an office at the age of 14 learning how to run a business, and that's how I got my skills, right? And I don't mean stuck. It was one of the best experiences of my life, but you get what I'm saying. But I say that to say that my job specifically is to have these conversations and see that if you're already doing this work, a lot of organizations are already starting to remove or say, or equivalent. I don't know if we've seen that before, but or equivalent, bachelor's degree required or equivalent experience. I love that. But how can we kind of talk about that language even more, make it more attractive for someone like myself to want to apply? And that's kind of the work that I do with these organizations and really do some solution selection. Again, it's not one size fits all. So what resonates with one company? Company A might want to focus more on hiring Hispanic stars versus company B might want to look at more clean energy jobs. And then it is our jobs to really be that advisory, that sounding board, that let's think about how we can really help you create a sustainable ecosystem, right? Because not only do you have to walk the walk, but you have to talk the talk and kind of make sure everything is happening. I've had a corporate partner say, I need to make sure I reach out to our HR and TA teams to make sure that, yes, we want to be part of this, but do we have the capacity to do this, right? So I say all that to say that we are here to really be able to help everyone at whatever journey they are when it comes to hiring stars. The first thing I would strongly suggest to do is sign up for the Tear the Paper Ceiling Coalition and add your company to pledge. We'll leave the information below so that everyone can click on the website and the Opportunity at Work website. And I strongly suggest just going through our reports too. We have some fascinating reports that really give you some really great intellect around the insights that stars are, affecting into these larger work communities, and how we're adding value, and how we're stars of many different colors and ages and sizes and demographics. And we have so many different skills to add. So I would definitely go to the opportunityatwork.org website to definitely look at our reports. And for anyone who's in talent acquisition and HR, call us. Even if you're scared and you're saying, I don't know where to start, call us, reach out to us. We'll see where you are in your journey, and figure out where you want your future state to be, and develop that multi-prong approach. Connect you with our data and insights team, our advisory services team, our delivery team, to really be able to talk about this work and how we'd be able to best suit your needs.
Awesome. I love it. And I think that this is something that employers, like you said, are starting to get on this train of the or equivalent. But I think there's still a lot of work to do. And, I think even within we did something at the last company I was at where we changed our EEO statement and basically said, even if you don't check every single box, but it sounds like something that you're passionate about, apply. And, we got a lot of people that we would never have seen and would never have come across our desk, would never have applied. And, that was also a way for us to just build this group that was very diverse, very different backgrounds, very different experiences. But, with the three of you as the example, so many amazing skill sets that you bring to the table that, on paper it might be, oh, well, you don't have the degree or, whatever. But what you do have, like you said, having that skills-based resume, having that, I can't even list all the skills that I have on my resume. Like, I love that because it's so true. If you just jump in and start taking on things and start learning new things, it is very hard to write a skills-based resume at some point.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think employers need to be open-minded, right? The old way of hiring is gone, people. Yes. It's gone. Let it be gone. If Byron was on the call, he would say we are rewiring the labor market to make sure that, people are starting to look at us, stars, in a different way. It's not a bad thing to bring on a star. And probably people think that you have to train us so much. And it's like, no, we're just like everybody else. So I really encourage people who are listening, whether it's employers or fellow stars, just take the chance. I went from an operations background at my mother's office and joined a really big organization in the DC metropolitan area that was well known. And they took a chance on me. They literally just said, you have the skills. We want to mold you. We're going to walk you through all the certification. I was started off in financial services, which is a great start for stars, by the way, because you don't need a degree to do the work in financial services, that you just have certifications. And once you get these certifications and you build on the certifications, I was licensed in DC, Maryland, Virginia in property and casualty and health, life and health and insurance and financial services. I still have those skill sets that I learned. I can tell you about insurance and read your policy still to this day. It's just muscle memory. So I say all that to say you have to take a chance on a star. A lot of people are doing it these days. And guess what? The states are jumping in too. We do a lot of work with the public sector. So big plug to our team, our policy team at Opportunity at Work, doing a fantastic job. We have officially 21 states that have signed up and said, hey, guess what? We're removing the degree requirement for our state positions, which is so amazing. And shout outs to, Maryland, because that's where I sit. But we were the first state to sign up and say, yes, we're going to remove the degree requirement. So it's really affecting more than just corporate, to be honest with you. It's affecting everybody, and creating a larger and diverse talent pool will be helpful for everyone.
100%. Well, and I would also I think, we're hearing all these things about AI and all of the different, we know so many changes are coming from what do we need from the workforce? And, I think that's just another good point of here are folks that are, even if they don't have that exact skill set, are going to come in and go, let me learn, let me figure it out. Let me jump in and just go, which is something that's amazing. And if you can have those highly motivated people, what else do you want as a leader? You want someone that's going to go, yep, I'll do all the things. Just let me go and I'll run.
Yeah. I think it's worth mentioning, like, we understand this is a very nuanced conversation. Like, we've been celebrating stars, for the past 50 minutes or so. But there's really a lot of work that is good work that's happening on just behalf of everyone. And it really boils down to skills-based hiring. So I think that sometimes recruiters, even hiring managers, like are like fall on either side of the fence, where it's like, I really believe in this, but I don't know how to, convince my leaders. Or on the flip side, it's like, I get it and I have to do this, but I really don't know where to start. I would just encourage people to look into like the advances that are happening, both through like philanthropic organizations, but also through like local community-based organizations who are doing the work on the front lines and helping people not only get over those hurdles to land the job of their dreams, but also to develop and train and to provide pipelines of talent into industries that are growing or that, are seeing that decline in skills-based talent. So I would just, encourage people to think more broadly about just the term stars. Like, yes, we're proud to be stars, but it really is about, skills-based hiring, changing the status quo and working smarter, not harder, to like get the people into your companies and to, provide that economic boost to our communities.
Absolutely. I love that, Natalia. I think, one thing that I witnessed directly as a technical recruiter, I worked for probably the worst agency boss ever. I didn't have a degree. I was kind of my first technical recruiter role, and he forced me for these software engineers. I was not allowed to present anybody without a degree. And I just felt so, felt so dirty, so wrong. And then I would go into these companies, and what I found is a bunch of organizations that had identical people, one after another. They all came from the same schools. They all had the same train of thought. They all approached problems similarly. I think when you start really double downing on a skills-based hiring approach versus looking at previous job titles and education as your anchor, what you really get is this amazing diversity of thought, right? And I think that's what it comes down to. When you start recruiting people that are from widely diverse backgrounds, people that didn't follow traditional career paths, they are free thinkers, they are trendsetters, they are visionary sometimes, and sometimes they're just absolutely impeccable at what they do, and they approach problems very differently than maybe the other people in your organization. So what I would say, part of the key things where employers really need to listen up is skills-based hiring is more about creating diversity of thought within a work environment and really bringing in the talent to have a well-rounded problem-solving mechanism, right? Because that's what it's really about. There are always 10 sides to a problem, and having the different approaches is really how we solve things fast, quickly, and efficiently. And so, really doubling down on that stars, or not even necessarily hiring stars, but just skills-based hiring and focusing on that over degree and title would make a huge difference in just the, representation that you have at your tables.
Yeah. And if this work works, it really does. The three of us here are directors and senior managers in our positions, heads of departments, and we got here being stars. So again, to any stars watching this can happen. This is real. This is not one in a million. If anything, there's more of us out there, and just keep being tenacious and reaching out to resources such as us, your LinkedIn networks, and you'll get to where you need to be. Don't feel like, not having a degree is going to stop you along your journey, because that's not the case. Look at the three of us.
Awesome. My dogs are losing their minds right now, so I apologize. I had to mute there for a second. So the kind of the last question we always like to ask folks is, if folks are listening to this episode, what is one thing that you want to make sure they heard? What is one thing? And let me be clear, Jackie never just has one, so I'm just going to give you all a heads up right now. I am always very efficient, only one. No, I'm just kidding. But
it feels everybody's at the end. It says, yeah, same.
Yeah,
that's how it works.
Same as a all the things you said. Yeah, ditto. Yeah. But would love to hear from each of you. What is one thing you want to make sure our listeners, whether they are, working in an HR role, in a talent acquisition role, if they are a star, if they are someone that's hiring, what do you want them to know? So, Natalia, let's start with you.
Try to keep it brief. I would just say, the new frontier of HR talent tech is skills-based hiring. So if you are an employer or if you're consuming tools to do your job, or you're a builder making tools to help employers find talent, really consider how you're advancing skills-based hiring through your solutions and through your choices.
Awesome. Crystal?
Sure. I would say in general, across the entire ecosystem, remove your fear. Skills-based hiring is a tried, true, proven way. You see stars here. You see people all the time that are very successful without formal education backgrounds. So if you're a star, don't be fearful of applying for things that you don't check off every box. I love that. If you have a passion, apply for it anyway, and then follow it up with a kick-ass cover letter telling you why you're the only person that they should be interviewing, right? If you're a hiring manager, stop being scared that a degree, that somehow a degree is going to prove this person has a skill set. By the way, when I was recruiting, some of these people hadn't gotten the degree in 20 years. How is that more valuable than someone who's been living those skills for the last 5? Again, remove your fear. Try something different. Focus on how you bring diversity of thought into the workplace. That's what I would say. Remove your fear.
Awesome. Danielle?
I don't know how to follow up after
I know, right?
Why did you make me laugh? I think, okay. Well, I guess I want to say it's okay to change the algorithm. It is totally okay to change the algorithm. Don't feel like you have to use the things that the standard, right? What was the standard? Don't feel like you have to do that. And it's okay to be that underdog. I always root for the underdog. The Celtics won recently. Hello, underdogs. Underdogs always win, okay? So I always say that, make sure that you are doing what you need to do to try to change the algorithm, because sometimes, when you're listening to your music and you put a little bit different, song or a different genre into that musical playlist, it changes the algorithm. So it's not something that only stars can do. It does take the help of DEI departments, talent acquisition departments, HR departments, you all on this call. It's going to take all of us to be able to make this sustainable change. And we're just getting started. So don't be afraid to change the algorithm. Don't be afraid to tell your story. I think that's another thing that's really important, is do not be shy to tell your story. If I could scream my story out loud every single day, I would. And I'm so proud to be a star. So I suggest, build that confidence up so that you can feel proud to tell your star story as well. And make sure you sign up with the Tear the Paper Ceiling campaign that we
want to say one thing. Danielle sparks for me, and I was going to say, in terms of rooting for the underdog, Kendrick Lamar. Come on.
Oh, we don't even have time. Yeah, but look what rooting for the underdog does, right? And, not that underdog is a negative connotation. I love being the underdog. I love showing people. I love getting a challenge. Being a star to me is a challenge. It's to show people that I can do this. I love being able to put on my resume the stats that I have done. I feel like the stats. I'm in sales. So if I brought a company $2.5 million, don't you want me to make you $2.5 million too? Isn't that what it should be? Isn't that all that it matters to be, whether I have a college degree or not? College didn't teach me how to make the $2.5 million. It's my skills. It's my on-the-job experience. It's me going out and shaking hands and building those relationships. That's what taught me how to make the $2.5 million.
And your mama.
And my mom. Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I feel like my mom and your mom might get along very well because she was also like that. No, you're going to come work now. Let's get this done. Yeah.
Yeah. My mom was like, oh, spring break? You thought you were going outside to play? No, you're going to be in the office answering phone calls, and you're going to be in QuickBooks doing my accounting. Thank you.
Yes. That's awesome. Jackie, what you got?
Just want people to know imposter syndrome is real. It is very difficult and tricky of understanding, that feeling that you have. Like it's not a made up point when you are nervous or you feel a certain way about those things. But like you were saying, you want to try to build that confidence, but just know that there's other people out there. Try to network with other people, get involved, and get those relationships when you're partnering there, and slowly work on those pieces. And if you forget and feel that imposter syndrome, call one of us or hit us up on LinkedIn to to discuss it. I think it is okay. My favorite is when I talk to people. I had talked to somebody about potentially going back to school, and they were like, why did you leave school? And I was like, I'm in my 40s. I was like, because I wanted to party, and I still do. I still want to party. That has not changed. School does not work for me. And then realizing also for other people who are neurodiverse, I didn't get diagnosed until I was older. I didn't know that I could not sit still. The reason I couldn't do it, there's no way that I could sit still every single day, 3 times a week for hours, was never going to work for me. And so if you're in that position, know that you're not alone, and look into those things to not only build your confidence, but to find out your skills and to see if there's any other diagnosis, there's solutions. If there is something, a reason why school maybe wasn't the avenue, there could be an underlying cause for that. And if you haven't thought of that before, start looking at it now, because once you have those solutions, there's tips and skills and things that can help you get, move forward. So just wanted to throw that part out there. What about you, Katie?
For me, I think it's a combination of everything you said and ditto.
See, you cheat every week.
No, what I was going to say, it's a combination of, I agree. Like the underdog, like I don't want it to have a negative connotation, because I think it's more the go-getters. It's the folks that are nothing, maybe hasn't come easy. Maybe it hasn't been a smooth path, but you keep going and you keep, learning new things and learning new skill sets to add to your toolkit. But I also think there's a whole theme of, you pick up folks that are doing this work. I think, Crystal, you said it. Would you rather have someone that has a piece of paper from 15, 20 years ago, or someone that's doing the work right now today? And knowing as quickly as technology is changing, as quickly as everything changes, of course, you'd want someone that's doing the work, that knows the skill set, that knows the most nuanced or new technology. You want those folks. And so I think it's just, again, changing that, as you said, the algorithm, the mindset of what do we need to do? How do we need to do it to get it done? So,
and to quote Kendrick Lamar, they're not like us. They're not like us. They're not like us. Right?
Yes, exactly. I want to say one more thing. Because Katie, what you bring up, and also Jackie, made me think of, like, on the flip side, it's also about like unpacking your bias. So like I'm thinking about your audience members, like who might be coming to listen to this podcast to learn like how to be more inclusive and how to look beyond the degree to like make a valid assessment about a person. And so I would say, like, start to unpack your bias around like what you perceive are the things that make someone from a college graduate program better in your eyes, or in like what you've been told and what you've been taught, and start to, reimagine like where else could those skills be coming from. Like if you're, like love research, maybe, there's so many ways that you can make those skills transferable. So I would say unpack your bias so that you can start to reimagine what that could mean to you and the skills you're looking for, and make your decisions based on that.
Awesome. Love it. I feel like we need like 6 more calls to like dig in more. So if we can get those on the books, that'll be great. But thank you, ladies, for joining us. Truly appreciate this. I think this has been really, really helpful. And again, has been kind of eye-opening for folks that are listening, or will be eye-opening for people that are listening, of, how to think about things differently, which is what, what this podcast is really all about. So this is Katie Van Horn.
And this is Jackie Clayton. Bye.